I'm at it again, breaking down yet another team's finish. On today's action-packed episode, I will be breaking down the Baltimore Orioles finish on Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome and hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or wherever you may be listening, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps out the podcast. And also, if you can, give us a little share too. It really helps. And if you want a little bit more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast, check us out on Subtext and become a member of the Diamond Club. So many benefits and so many ways to help you win your fantasy leagues in 2025. You can start this season today with big returns on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. All right, guys. I am breaking down the Baltimore Orioles season, and quite honestly, this is going to be fun. I love this team. Honestly, we look at it and we go, all right, how does this break down, right? Like, what are we looking at? Can we essentially see a team taking a step forward? Can we not, etc., right? And, you just got to kind of just go like this. Like, okay, are we going to see a team kind of, pause real quick. So, where I was going with this, sorry, I couldn't get where my head was going, but essentially, they had a good season. They look like a very strong team. They're a very young team, and they took the step forward that they thought they would. And they were able to make a true campaign and make the playoffs this year, but unfortunately got swept by the Royals, which I didn't see coming. Truthfully, Bobby Witt Jr. just kind of willed them to the next round. So, way to go! That's why you're one of the best players in baseball. But the team itself is fantastic. They finished with 91 wins and 71 losses. Great season from them. To have a 90-win season, especially 2 years into your rebuild, I think is great. They made great moves. Obviously dealt with some injuries in the pitching category with like loss of Kyle Radish and things like this, but they still were able to persevere and really be good. Guys took step forwards like Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westberg, and some guys completely flopped. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about, essentially the future of their young guys. Like what are we doing with Jackson Holliday? The Keston Kierstads and things like this. Then pitching for them too. Like how valuable are they? Who's going to be the ace? Why did they flop? Why did they didn't? All this stuff. It's coming up on the show. And I'm really excited to talk about the team as a whole. And, there's a lot of fantasy value. And I think next year is going to be even bigger than what we're expecting. This team is going to be somebody like a lot of these guys, I think after 2025 are going to be drafted much higher. Let's get into it. Gunnar Henderson. This is no question. If you listen to me all off season, and not Dom, because Dom was saying I don't believe in Gunnar Henderson. It's too high of a pick. I was saying take him in the third all day. It was really just between him and Ellie De La Cruz, and you couldn't go wrong with whichever one you went with, right? And those were my two options every single time. Gunnar Henderson obviously broke out. He had a phenomenal season. Like, let's go. I think personally he's going to be a top 5, top 6 pick for me next year. He had 630 at bats, 118 runs, 31 doubles, 7 triples, 37 bombs, 92 rips, 21 stolen bases. Batted .281, a OBP of .364, a slug of .529, and an OPS of .893. What an incredible season. Okay, you can't ask for more, and you got him in the third round. This was a pick that won your league, as long as you didn't pick like Corbin Carroll in the first round. And you were able to capitalize on all in hitting on those early picks that had high upside and low floors and ended up being there. Gunnar Henderson essentially took your team from being like, oh, okay, you had a really good draft to, wow, you're in contention for the ship. And I'm sure that Gunnar Henderson was on a lot of championship teams. For fantasy, he's a no-brainer. Like I said, top 5, top 6 pick. I can't wait to see how the ADP goes. I wouldn't even be surprised if earlier. I wouldn't blame you. Five category contributor, obviously not elite in the stolen base category like other guys that could probably go a little bit earlier than him, but ultimately definitely worth the conversation. And I'm super excited to draft him next year. Let's put it that way. The guy that everybody kind of like had a lot of questions on this going into this season is Jackson Holliday. He got the call up at some point early in the season, did not succeed, was sent down, but then was recalled. And when he was recalled, he, obviously improved. I wouldn't say I was super impressed with him or anything of the sort, but I will say that it was definitely a better output than essentially the start. Let's put it that way. I'm pulling it up now, but essentially, like when it came to Jackson Holliday, I just was like, whatever. Like, you look at it, you go, he made improvements, but also still didn't live up to it. But also, he's young. This is his first real shake at the bigs, and I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass. But you know, he never really whiffed higher than snuffed higher than like a 220 batting average, unfortunately. But showed off a little bit of pop, showed off a little bit of like being able to not leave guys on bases, especially in August outside of the batting average. He did have 4 home runs and 15 ribs in that month, along with 2 stolen bases. But ultimately, I think fell under the pressure of the bigs, which I don't think is the trajectory for him in 2025. Honestly, I think that he's definitely worth a pick. Where is that pick? I think still, I think right outside the top 100 now. Maybe in like around pick 100. Like if you're picking him at 98 and that's the guy you want to take a shot on, sure, I won't blame you at that point. Depending on like the position you're drafting for, whether it's second base or short, you know, he might be your best option at that point. And we'll see about like kind of like where it is once we start able to do the mock drafts more and more. But I think Jackson Holliday's upside for next year is, being that he played, what is it, a grand total of like 190 at bats. I'm not going to say his course is set. This is his story. You look at his prospect pedigree and you go, there's a lot more to give in this, and I just can't say that he's just going to. This is him, and this is how he's going to be. No, like no, thank you. Should have known major say, yeah, of course they change the whole darn site on me, of course. So here we go. So like in the minors, like he's always been a top end prospect, like 12 home runs through 477 at bats, 30 doubles, 9 triples, you know, walked 101 times to 118 strikeouts, was batting 323. This kid has a power grade of raw power of 60. Like everything about Jackson Holliday is a prototypical top end player. It just needs to come to fruition. And, sometimes it takes these young bats to come up and, adjust. He's 20 years old. What do you expect out of the kid? 21, coming of a man, and kind of finally seeing the speed of the game and things like that. I think he'll take that step forward and be good for fantasy baseball and good. I wouldn't be surprised if he hits for like 250, 260 batting average. Wouldn't be surprised if he walks away with 20 to 25 home runs. Wouldn't be surprised because of the team. He finishes with 85 runs and ribbies, if not more, and about 20 stolen bases. That'd be a great season. And ultimately, like I think that's the ceiling, but obviously we know what the floor could be as well. He could also be like one of those prospects we all expected to have, in fuego seasons and be this amazing uber player, and then they completely flop too. But I just don't see it. Not only does he have the prospect pedigree, but he also has, the lineage and, the genetics of what his father did in the bigs in his days. So I can't see how Jackson Holliday doesn't follow in suit. So Jackson Holliday for me in 2025, I think is going to be a phenomenal pick. I can't wait to see. I just hope the hype doesn't get too high. And, get him in like top 50, because then that's going to get rough because I don't believe he's worth that yet. But yeah. So coming up next, I'm going to talk about Jordan Westberg and why I feel strongly about him in 2025, whether it's positive or negative. That's coming up next. If I could ever hit the right button. Okay. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Him is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides you access to a range of doctors' trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints, Viagra, and Cialis, and generic for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so you never need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions on the site, and medical provider will determine the right treatment options. If prescribed, your medicine will ship directly to you. It's discreet in packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from the treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/locked on. That's hims.com/locked on for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims locked on. The product mentions are chewable compound products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions are required an online consultant with the healthcare provider who will determine if it's appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Prices vary based on product and subscription plan. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast and Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Rely on our dynamic content this offseason, right? Get our weekly updates of our rankings right to your phones, whether it's redraft rankings, dynasty rankings, sleepers, breakouts, busts, player news, etc., reactions, and so much more, right at your fingertips. And all you got to do is click the link in the description below. Sign up, you get a free 2 weeks, and you'll be on top of it and ahead of your league, I promise. So check us out. Links in the description below. And let's get back into it. Like I said, I was right before the break, I was talking about my boy, Jordan Westberg, and, my strong feelings for him. And my strong feeling for him this year is he's going to be fantastic. I'm a big fan. If you're going into this season to 2024, I said on our bold predictions and our watch list to watch out for Jordan Westberg. I think he was going to have a fantastic season. When he got the call, he was the number one prospect, higher than every big name that we've seen. And for good reason. He's freaking awesome. Like Jordan Westberg, decided, hey, I'm going to be awesome, and here we go. And he had a great season up until the injury, unfortunately. That was the only thing that pretty much stopped his true full potential, and why I think people are going to kind of sleep on him to an extent. Only the owners who had him, I think, are more going to be in tune with him. He had about 416 at bats. He had 57 runs, 26 doubles, 5 triples, 18 bombs, 63 ribs, 6 stolen bases, and batted a 264, an OBP of 312, a slug of 481, an OPS of 792. I truly feel strong about this kid. I think he's going to seriously blow the lid off and take that step forward. Like, let's just look at his AAA stats, his 2023 stats, essentially, right? In 2023, he had about 268 at bats, 57 runs, 15 doubles, 2 triples, 18 bombs, 54 ribs, 6 stolen bases, and he was batting about 295. The kid does have power. I mean, to do 18 home runs and 268 at bats, that's very, it's a nice telltale sign of what he could possibly do in the bigs. And I think that we're starting to see that happen with 18 home runs through 416 at bats. I think the pace was a little bit on the lower side, but to be expected. Like, guys who usually have a little bit of power don't really go for full send their rookie year. Sometimes it happens. It's very rare, but it's the making of it and where they tend to finish. He was on pace, I think, for about 25 home runs by season's end. If you were to get about 530 at bats, 540 at bats, and 25 is a great benchmark for your first season. And I think Jordan Westberg is going to take that step forward and be that good and maybe have a 30-run home run season this year. On top of that, you look at the underlying stats, and it's just like, this is where the proof is in the pudding, right? So, let's talk about it, right? His xWOBA was a 355. His batting average was 284, whereas he only posted about, a 263. His slug was at 498, which that's phenomenal. His average exit velocity, which this is part of why I say he could have that 30 home run season, if not more, 91.1 miles an hour. He was barreling about 11.8% of the time. Fantastic. Creating hard contact at 46.1% of the time. And his launch angle was great this year. I'd like to see the bat speed improve a little bit, and I'd like to see him walk a little bit more and not chase and whiff and strike out. If he could kind of manage that, I think we're going to see the potential of the batting average, where the X batting average is. I think we're going to be able to see a little bit more of an improvement, a better pace of home run. This is all things that you could do. He's going to do now in a full offseason after knowing, hey, I'm on the roster. Hey, this is my true sophomore year. Let's get it rocking and rolling and going to make those big league adjustments. And we're going to possibly be talking about a guy that's going to be, I think, truthfully, a top 3 pick, like not top 3 pick overall, top like 3 rounds overall. I am a big fan of this kid. Jordan Westberg is going to be awesome in 2025. Do not forget about this kid whatsoever. And this is why we're going to keep bringing him up all off season long. Our next guy here is Adley Rutschman. And what a toilet bowl season for him this year, quite honestly. Like, that says it all right there, honestly. Like, it literally went into the toilet bowl, was not great, a bust of a pick, in my opinion. Adley Rutschman truthfully just could not live up to the draft price. He was being drafted in the top 50 and ultimately could not back it up, in all honesty. We look at it like this. This is how his season numbers finish. 571 at bats, 68 runs, 21 doubles, a triple, 19 bombs, 79 ribs, a stolen base, batted about 250, had an OBP of 318, a slug of 391, and an OPS of 709. This is not what we drafted him for. The previous year was a lot better. And it was one because not only did he, has show in his true rookie season, in his sophomore season, that he was able to take that step forward and both the power and the team itself grew, but also like the walks to strikeouts was significantly better. He had better plate discipline. The batting average was up. And we just figured, okay, cool. He's going to be a generational talent, possibly the next Buster Posey. And then he comes in this season and just kind of really didn't live up to it. The power was honestly the same pace. Was a home run different. And quite honestly, I think that he just wasn't able to be successful with a team that I think was seeing a lot of success. And, you look at like the underlying stats and you're just like, well, ex-Wobo was about 319. His ex-batting average was 258. His slug was a 402. His average exit velocity was sitting at 88.2 miles an hour. And then you go back and you look at, you go and look at it, it's just like not great. He's not barreling enough. He's not creating enough hard contact, only about 36.6% of the time. The launch angle is about mediocre. Yes, he's there. He's not whiffing, but and it's saying he really didn't strike out, but he did in comparison to the year before where, it was nearly even to now it's about 50%. So, in terms of walk to strikeouts, right? Like, so he had like 51 walks, 100 strikeouts. Like, it's just not where like you would expect it. And with the amount of at bats he's getting, which that's the only reason like you truthfully were drafting him was the opportunity where like, catchers usually don't even whiff 500 at bats. They'll be lucky if they get 400 and change. Adley Rutschman almost saw 600. So like, it's a big difference that he wasn't able to go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity that he was getting, because I figured, hey, with this much at bats, he should be able to tickle, 25 to 30 home runs. And the way the team as itself was going, the runs and ribbies should have been significantly better. So let's just hope for a better year. But the proof is in the pudding in terms of draft strategy. Why Dom and I always preach, hey, we don't draft catchers this early. Adley Rutschman was almost the exception, but at the same time, it can't be. He has fallen for me in those regards, and I don't trust him. So, if you're one of those guys that need to have the elite catcher, hey, long and behold, you do what you got to do. But this proves that top end catchers don't really return on their draft price. Until he proves me otherwise, I'm not ready. Yes, there's that upside still. It's not like he's lost his talent. He's going to completely just fall off the map and never live up to it, because I think we've seen that in his rookie year. It's just a matter of need to actually see it come through, because I mean, spending this kind of investment on him and then for him to just return that kind of performance isn't worth it. So I think I'm going to pass on him if he's going anywhere in the top 100. If he's going, after pick 100, it's a great discussion and something that I would love to see what my team construction could look like and who's going around him, whether it's, am I getting the edge by drafting him and having him on my team as a daily start versus the other players that are available that I could fill up multiple positions. So, and that's going to be the debate around Adley Rutschman, I think, in 2025, not only for team construction, but is he actually worth the pick? Coming up next, we're going to be talking about a bunch of great guys, Keston Kierstad, Grayson Rodriguez, and all these pitching guys and what we should expect from them in 2025. And we are talking about our buddies over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your live bets on NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch in the middle of the moment. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And guys, I got to give you something to help you kind of win that $5 bet. Just bet against the Giants. I promise it'll probably pan out. Check it out there. FanDuel, official sportsbook of the NFL. All right, we're in this latter half of the show, and I want to move on, and I want to start talking about Heston Kjerstad. Honestly, a prospect that I genuinely expected a little bit more out of. Actually, you know what? Let's bounce around. Actually, I want to talk about Grayson Rodriguez. Let's skip that because I feel like there's a little bit more fantasy relevance in terms of Grayson's season than anybody else. So let's break down and let's go into it. Sorry for the quick audible mid go, but it is what it is. So he dealt with his issues this season. We all know that. Injuries and stuff, and was only able to start about 20 games. Pitched about 116 innings pitched, had about 130 strikeouts, had an ERA of 3.86, and had a WHIP of 1.24. Not great. His FIP was about a 3.66, so a little bit better, which fielding independent pitching is what FIP stands for. It's like if you had an average defense behind you or, so on and so forth, what your ERA should look like. And it's a 3.66, so a little bit better, but, not super elite like we expected out of Grayson Rodriguez and the top end prospect. What I do like is just like the strikeout numbers, in comparison to innings pitched. Like he's definitely starting to tick up and take a little bit more off the top and start, showing that he has elite strikeout potential. I just feel like he was never really able to get going. And it's kind of like, hey, man, like we need to start seeing a little bit more out of you. His fastball was a little flat this year. His breaking balls were definitely flat by all means. Off speed pitches were looking pretty good. But, you just kind of look at it and you're just like, you expect more, especially year two, especially after what he did in the first year. And kind of like there was signs and potential that like I saw him taking a step forward, and it just was disappointing overall. His average exit velocity was sitting at 89.2 miles an hour. He was not creating ground balls. He was giving up hard contact at almost 40%. He was allowing guys to barrel at almost 8%. Was walking guys way higher than I would like. Yes, he was creating strikeouts and was creating whiffs and getting guys to chase, but all those other things can still wreak havoc on a pitcher's season and stat line for this. So we need to see him create more ground balls. We need to see him lessen the hard hit percentage, and we need to get more movement on that fastball and stuff, because his fastball velocity is sitting at 96.1 miles per hour on an average, and it's actually down a whole mile. Maybe that was for control, but I want to know the reasoning behind it, whether it was the injury impeding on the speed or is it on purpose. But when those pitches are starting, when he can't rely on that nice powerful fastball, that's an issue. It was getting hit about had a batting average of 291, that fastball, and he threw it about, where's the percentage? 46.5% of the time. If your fastball isn't getting the movement, it's getting hit at that rip, I'd probably be laying off it just a little bit and kind of mixing up my pitch mix. But he pretty much lived on two pitches. He threw his four-seam fastball about 46.5% of the time. Threw his changeup about 21% of the time, and then mixed in the slider and curveball about 15% of the time. So, in my opinion, he's like a 2.5 pitch pitcher, and it's not really like a great pitch mix. I would have laid off. I would have kind of thrown a little bit more junk until my fastball can get a little bit more improvement, and that's how you probably would have saw a little bit more production out of Grayson Rodriguez. So where do I see him for 2025? Well, for 2025, I think he's still going to be an SP2, but a lower end. I think probably where I was drafting him last year, around like pitcher 21 to 24 range. Because of the high ceiling play. And I think the floor is pretty decent. Ultimately, if I can just get more innings, but that kind of ratios where I could hopefully where the FIP was and not where the actual finish of the ERA was, where it's more of like that 3.5, 3.6 ERA. And if the whip is a little high, I can understand because he's striking out everybody under the sun, and the strikeout upside could outweigh the whip production in those regards. And hopefully we can see a better balance. He's a great pitcher. Like, this is no indictment on Grayson Rodriguez. Phenomenal pitching prospect, right? Like, we look at what he's done in the minors, and you just go, okay, cool. In 2023, before getting the call, he had a 1.96 ERA through 41 innings. He had 56 strikeouts, you know, and a 108 whip. Like he was fantastic in those regards. Was a great pitching prospect all throughout. And, you know, the strikeouts were absolutely insane in terms of upside because even in 2021, he had 103 innings pitched with 161 strikeouts. The kid is somebody that, you know, the talent hasn't just disappeared. So for Grayson Rodriguez, we are 100% going to try and chase that upside. It's just a matter of where does the risk come in and what are you willing to do? So for me, I'm still going to lean on that and just pray that he can be there, but hopefully we'll be able to get him as an SP3. But I think he'll be on the cusp. Like, okay, like he might be depending on, you know, who has gone ahead of him and, you know, what is the battle between those two guys you have to choose from at pick 24 for SP. But yeah, we're going to round up with this last guy here. Somebody I feel like we should not forget, and it's Felix Bautista. I don't know when he's due back. He might be finishing out the season. He might be able to start the season or come back quite soon. Um, so I'm waiting on that. I have to figure out what they're expecting when he's expected back. But I don't want to forget about him. He's somebody that we all need to keep in the back of our mind for 2025. He was the best closer in baseball before he had to go down to TJ. And you know, he's still somebody that I feel has all the opportunity in the world to really take over and be the best closer in baseball. You know, he didn't finish out the season, but had 33 saves that season with a team that isn't even half as good as it is now. The potential and the upside of Felix Bautista in 2025, I think, is going to be outrageous as long as he can return to form. You know, one thing we'll probably see is a higher whip this season, but I think the strikeouts and ERA should be fantastic. I feel the save opportunity and upside is going to be beyond that. I don't feel like the crew they had this year was able to take advantage of how good the team was as a whole. So with Felix Bautista this year, we are 100% going to try and draft him as a top 5 closer, in my opinion, as long as he's ready for opening day. I cannot wait to see him back out on that mound. He's going to be fantastic. But guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today. I hope we were able to kind of cover and answer some questions regarding these players. And, you know, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, share it with everybody. And check us out on, sorry for my kids in the background. Share this with everybody. You know, please check us out. Again, and when you're done with that, check out our boy Sully at Locked On MLB. Puts on a great show covering all the offseason moves and transactions. That being said, guys, have a great day. Peace.